Bitch is a Bad Word podcast is for informational purposes only and reflects the opinions of the host and guests. It contains explicit content and discusses sensitive topics such as domestic abuse, sexual assault, and violence, which may be distressing to some listeners. Please take care of your emotional well-being while listening. While we strive for accuracy, we make no warranties about the completeness or reliability of the information, and any reliance on it is at your own risk. We do not endorse third-party views and are not liable for any defamatory claims. Listeners should conduct their own research and consult professionals before making decisions. If you or someone you know is in danger, please call 911 or contact the National Domestic Abuse Hotline 24 hours a day, 7 days a week at 800-799-7233 or text START, S-T-A-R-T, to 88788. We've got your back, besties. Caliber Studios has not independently verified the information you're about to hear. Reality isn't always what it seems. It's what you make of it. Sons of Anarchy actress Ali Walker debuts her electrifying new thriller, The Light Runner, on June 6th at Amazon and Barnes & Noble, but our bestie gang can pre-order it now at aliwalkerofficial.com. She's a baddie, she's your new bestie, and we've got her back. Go visit her website, aliwalkerofficial.com, and pre-order The Light Runner now. Welcome back to Bitch is a Bad Word. Today we have your new bestie, Jessica Pride from the Pride Law Firm in San Diego County. Welcome to Bitch is a Bad Word, Jessica.
Thank you. It's so great to be here with you, Lindsay.
Oh, I'm so happy to have you on the show. You are a sexual assault attorney and a victim's advocate. You do such great work for women all over San Diego. I love you're inspirational. Look at your office. It's so cute, down to earth, like relatable, approachable. I can't imagine somebody coming in to see you and holding the bag of trauma that they're holding and then walking in and sitting here in your space. It's just such a beautiful experience you're giving these victims.
Thank you. I like to just be in a space that resonates with me, and I hope if it makes other people feel comfortable, that's amazing. But yeah, I've got lots of things that got black tourmaline for some protection, right?
Oh, look.
Do you have yours? Oh, you found it. It's winning. And then I've got my amethyst for healing.
Okay, look, I got mine.
Right? See?
What do we have next? We have my
you got a heart. Oh, okay. Let's see. I've got this. Oh, I have this one. This one a client gave to me, which I thought was really sweet. It's an angel, and she said I was her angel, so she gave me this as a reminder to keep shining my light and helping.
I absolutely love that. Yes, please do. So I'm wanting to I'm going to break the silence on sexual assault in relationships. And sexual assault in relationships is rarely talked about. So why do you think this is?
I mean, there's a lot of shame associated with it, right? And we were in a community where people didn't want to talk about that. That was one of the things that wasn't fun to talk about at parties or with your friends. Everybody wants to be like, I have a perfect marriage or I have a perfect relationship. Maybe it's just, there's so much that comes with it. And when someone's hurting, a lot of times they don't know who to talk to. And one, they don't know what rights they have. Like, what do they do to get out of it? Is this legal? Is it illegal? Most people realize that there are criminal options, right? You can call the police and they can come and issue a domestic violence restraining order or something like that. But if you do that, then let's say the person who's hurting you is the person paying the bills. If you put them away, who's going to pay? I mean, how does that work? How does that affect the children? There's all kinds of issues involved, but maybe sometimes people don't want to see them in jail. They just want to be away and have their own resources and live their own life free of the trauma. So there are other options out there. I mean, and I know we've talked about some of those things, which one being there actually is a civil code section, meaning you can sue your perpetrator, whoever's hurting you, in civil court for domestic violence.
That's amazing.
Meaning you now have the ability, if you're in a romantic relationship with someone and you qualify under it's 1700 of the penal code as a domestic situation, and then that person hurts you, you have a tort. Just like if you got into a car crash or, a dog, but you have a civil tort cause of action in civil court to get them for money for pain and suffering. So, because we know that this type of trauma has injuries. Sometimes it has physical injuries. A lot of times it's tons of emotional injuries. You need to go to therapy. I mean, all kinds of whatever it is, EMDR, whatever resonates with you. But those things cost money. And also the ability to start new and start fresh and the pain and suffering. So it's a great way for survivors to have another option for, how to get justice and find peace in their situation, how to get out.
Okay, I want to ask you, what does sexual assault look like in a relationship? And why do so many victims not recognize it as abuse?
I mean, 80% of survivors were abused by somebody they know. And a lot of times that's someone you're in a relationship with. It's kind of the frog in the boiling water story, right? At what point does the frog realize that it's being cooked?
Mhm.
The heat turns up really slowly. It's rarely a situation where all of a sudden it just goes from 0 to 100. It's
Right.
that slippery slope of wearing down your boundaries and things kind of like your senses and your stomach's going, that doesn't seem right. I feel like this isn't supposed to happen in a relationship, or why are they talking to me like that? And then next thing you know, it was an accident. They didn't mean to, push you or touch you or, whatever it is. And then next thing you know, you wake up one morning and you're like, how did I get here?
Yeah.
How did
It's
I end up in
insidious.
this place? Like, I'm a successful woman who, on the surface looks like I have the perfect life. And what people don't realize is, behind closed doors, it's a mess. How do you get out of it? Do I have the strength to get out of it? And so, I mean, what it looks like is someone hurting you without your consent, right? Even if you're married, I think that's a really clear distinction that people need to understand is that you can rape your spouse. You can rape your spouse, you can sexually assault your spouse. Just because you said I do doesn't mean you consented to trauma or to being abused. And so that means if your spouse drugs you without your permission and then, has intercourse with you. We saw that with the woman in France who
Mhm.
her husband was just, drugging her and had all these people coming over to rape his wife. I mean, how traumatic. Um, it's, your
Sickening.
husband or wife or whoever, I mean, your partner hitting you. That counts as violence. It's the same that you would see in the penal code section as violence. The civil code section for it is 1708.6. That essentially says if someone intentionally hurts you while you're in a domestically violent or in a domestic relationship, that you have potentially a cause of action. And so you need to remember it's about consent. And if you do feel like you're in a relationship that is hurting you, I would recommend that you reach out to our local rape crisis center here in San Diego. We have the Center for Community Solutions, which has a 24-hour hotline. If you're unsure if you're in a domestically violent, call them, talk to them, say, does this sound, sometimes it's a confidential communication. And if it turns out you are, because sometimes people don't know, right? You're the frog
Mhm.
and you're going, am I going to you? It seems wrong. They can help you with safety planning, help you in trying to figure out how to get out of the situation, maybe give you some clarity for when you're ready. But I mean, you and I were talking earlier and you realize it takes people usually at least 7 times to break that cycle and to get
Mhm.
out. I know also talking to a family law attorney, that's always good, right? When people are in a marriage that they want to end, family law is usually the first step that one of the things that people will talk to. Those consultations aren't always free. Um, Depends on who you're talking to. But I like the civil piece because it levels the playing field. I'm sure for people who've been in a divorce, one, divorces are never fun. And but two, they get nasty. And then California is a no fault state. So it doesn't matter who cheated, who did, you know, if one person with domestic violence changes the balance. But um for a lot of things where if you're just like, well, they're just not nice. I mean, it doesn't matter when you're dividing up the assets. It is what it
Right.
is. You just split it down the middle and this is your half and this is your half. However, with a civil suit, I always tell my clients like use it in the family law and pair them together so you can go, huh, but you actually beat me up and did terrible things and raped me. So guess what? Your half is now going, you thought we were going 50-50, but you're not. You're going down and you're giving me more because
Hmm.
of what you did, because now I need to take care of my injuries and whatever, my mental health and all those things. So I use it as a way also to put pressure, especially if you have a really abusive spouse who's continuing to traumatize you and won't let it go, because they use the process as another way to
Oh my
try
God.
and traumatize you. But if they're not facing a suit and they go and talk to their civil defense lawyer who's like, shit, this is going to cost you a
Hmm.
lot of money to fight. You should calm the heck down and maybe consider just ending it. It gives you a sword. So you're not just putting up, you know what I mean? Because you're constantly
Hmm.
defending yourself. This gives you an opportunity to just kind of step into it and take your power back and say, absolutely not, I'm fighting back. And
And it's
not in a way
important
that's
too
violent.
because not violence, but these two courts, the civil and family, do not communicate. So it's not as if you can walk into a family court, um, child support or whatever you need in family court, and they just automatically know what the heck's going on in civil court. And vice versa. And family court isn't going to rule on anything in civil. Civil's not going to rule on anything family, but they need to be aware that there's a pattern here, and family, in just my experience, it's like they just need to turn and burn. They're like, I have 15 domestic violence restraining orders that I need to hear, and I have 20 minutes for it. And so there's not a lot of time to get your point across where you're believed. And we've heard from a few people we've had on the show where they're like, in family court, a judge is not typically trained in domestic violence. They're not trauma informed necessarily. They didn't come from maybe another section or sector that allow them to understand what they're really dealing with. And when domestic violence is just thrown in the mix, they're like, oh shit, like what do we do here? Like she's either lying or he's either lying, or maybe they're both have something to do with this. They don't know where to put the blame. So if you have something in civil that's like, this is where we're going and this is the truth of the matter, then you may just like bump up your support and your defense in the family side, because they don't really want to hear it. They kind of want to get, like, their job is to keep families together or the children intact as much as possible. They want things to, like, we need to get, and we're going to make the decision based on what we're just hearing in this very limited amount of time. And we've talked about this before. If you didn't report it, they kind of think you're full of shit. Like you're using it now to get some more money or and if you truly understand domestic violence, and if you've ever been physically, emotionally, sexually, financially, or otherwise abused by someone, the last thing these victims are doing is using the experience of being vulnerable, sharing this tragedy and this horrible time, and bringing it up again and again in family court for some money. It's like that's not happening. These women are they're not it's like that's not what these women are after. They're after justice. They're after, like, this is not right.
Yeah, no one decides to come forward and speak their truth because they were like, "Oh, this will be fun. I'll make a bunch
Yeah.
of money and it'll be worth it." No, I think every survivor I've ever represented or even spoken to would say, "I'd pay you to make sure that I didn't have to go through that trauma. I didn't want to be
Mhm.
part of this process." I just felt like at some point I was like, I have to make a choice. I
Right.
have to stand up for myself, for my family, for, my kids, to say like, you don't get to treat me this way. It's not okay. And I have to model this for my daughter or for, whoever's going to come along. I mean, I have a lot of times survivors will say, if it were just about me, I don't have the courage to do this. I wouldn't. but I think who else will they hurt next? And if I don't stop them or do something to break the cycle of violence, it keeps going.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So the survivor community is a really strong community, and there are so many people out here who want to help and to realize that you're not alone. I mean, I think that's the beautiful part about
Mm.
the sorority community is you're not alone. And I love that you're doing this podcast and sharing these stories so that people who are listening are going, "Oh my God, this sounds like me.
Yeah.
You're telling my story." And so I really thank you for that and appreciate the work you're doing, because that's what people want to know, right? When they're in
Well,
the
thank
depths of
you.
their despair, that there's hope. There really is.
The hope is so important, and knowing that you're not alone, because we talk about this a lot. You live in a silo and you only see the world in the way that they want you to see it. And, like you said, you're not going out to lunch and dinner at the country club with your friends and talking about all the abuse that happened the night before. You're pushing it under
Right?
the rug, you know?
Right? Could you imagine being at like the Rancho Santa Fe Country Club sitting there talking about it? Like, no, I mean, I was just there the other day, and like, that is not the environment.
No.
It's not that kind of place.
It's not that kind of place, but the stats, maybe we should open a new place because the stats would
Yes, we so
suggest
are. Let's do it.
TV cafe.
You can come and no one's going to like what you say there. Talk about your shit. Come, let's share. I mean,
I love
that's
it.
kind of
Well, because
cool,
the
right?
statistics are telling us that the people that are sitting at these country clubs are being abused. It's just statistically not impossible. It's happening. But no one wants to talk about it. It's full and riddled with shame. And when we have people reaching out to us on this show, it's amazing and sad, and not even sad, tragic is the word. It's carbon copies. The text messages are the same, the stories are the same. It's like these people that have these, personality disorders or whatever this is, they're all the same, and they're just destroying lives all over the place. So I love that. I'm like, here, come talk to us. We call all of our listeners our besties, and we want them to hear these survivor stories and know that there's hope and know that life on the other side is come over here. We got you. It's really good.
Yes,
So
come,
before
we promise.
we promise,
But
it's
at
really
least,
light.
right? And if someone's infringing on your legal rights, give someone like me a call, because we're here to protect you and make sure that like, I mean, there's people who know the law, and there's so many great lawyers in this community too that are ready to stand up and say, like, absolutely not. You're not
Yeah.
picking on them. Not on my
Mm-mm.
watch. Like,
No, we
so,
need it.
and
You
I
need
don't
a
know
strong
why it's like
defense.
predators find the like word. It's like they find their like people like them. You're just like biggest assholes find other assholes, and you're like, why do the assholes all hang out? Like, is there maybe there's an asshole cafe too?
It's like, well, they're right down the street. We're like, yes. Okay, before we take a break, I really want to hone in on this one thing that you said, and I think it's so important for our besties to hear that just because you said I do in a marriage does not mean that any sexual event from the day that you say I do to the end of time does not constitute, it doesn't mean consent. I do does not mean consent. So if you're in a relationship where your partner is coercing you to have a sexual experience and you say no, you're allowed to. You're allowed to refuse sex anytime you want. You
Yeah. I was talking to a girl yesterday who in a relationship, living together, agreed, said that we're having sex. She was okay with that. And then he started choking her and choked her to the point where she lost consciousness. And she tried to, but she couldn't breathe. Afterwards, of course, she was freaking out, not okay, went to the hospital, called the cops. And he's going, but what's the problem? It's like, one, we've never done that. I'm not okay with that. I told you I was a victim of, child sex. Like, I needed regular, I just wanted soft intimacy. I was never okay with, and I am not okay with that type of sexual interaction. And he's sitting here going, oh, Am I in trouble? Yeah, you
Yeah.
gotta get consent for that. Come on, kids. Like, you don't get to like choke somebody out without first saying, like, are you okay if I choke you out? Like, these
Right.
are some basic. I don't know if people didn't get that talk when they did the birds and the bees, but yeah, consent's a real thing. Now that person is facing criminal prosecution, potential civil suit. Like, you should think before you act. So that's a really novel idea.
Yeah, right. When we come back with Jessica Pride, we are going to talk about victims' rights and legal options that you have. We'll be right back, besties. Since we've launched, we have had an outpouring of emails and DMs from listeners sharing their real, raw, and tragically relatable stories of domestic abuse. We keep reading one common theme. Our show is helping you feel seen. Your ex used to do that all the time, and maybe I'm not crazy. You're not. You've just been living in a silo, and your support system has been stripped away systematically over time, and we want to help you build it back. We are building the biggest, baddest, bestie gang, and we're doing it on Patreon. Visit patreon.com/bitchesabadword and come check out all the awesomeness that we've got going on. We have a $4 tier that will give you early access to ad-free episodes, 10% discounts on merch, some exclusive Patreon member-only merch designs, and we are designing some really rad stuff that you're going to want to rock. We also have a little segment called Tea with Lindsay, where I'll be spilling all the best tea from your bestie. We have an $8 tier that gives you all of those things, an additional 15% merch discount, and access to our exclusive Discord server. We are vetting every single member, so our besties can go in and feel safe to share their stories, find their voices, rebuild their network. And if you're being financially monitored or money's just tight, no worries. We've been there. We've got you. We are going to make it so that other Patreons can gift a membership so everyone can go in and find the bestie they need. We're also going to be doing some behind the scenes stuff, and we're just going to be growing it over time, and we cannot wait for you to join. So come find us on patreon.com/bitchesabadword, and let's get this going. Let's build this bestie gang. We've got your back. We'll see you on Patreon. Okay, welcome back to Bitch is a Bad Word. We have Jessica Pride here, your new bestie. She is a victim's advocate, a survivor, and a badass lawyer defending the rights of sexual assault victims here in San Diego. And we want to talk to you about the rights that survivors have. What's the right that a survivor has in a sexual assault situation?
Well, I mean, you have a right to your own autonomy. So if anybody ever takes that from you, you have the right to one, you can call the police. And you can choose to participate in an investigation. And then what people don't realize, sometimes people call me and go, hey, I want you to put this person in prison. And I'm like, I can't do that. That's not really my job. There are different kinds of courts. There's criminal court, there's civil court, there's family court. So in criminal court, the way to get to criminal court is you call the police do an investigation. And I will say during that investigation, there is a whole list of rights. Marcy's Law spells out a whole bunch of rights that say, like, you get the right to look at your police report after you've reported. And if you need to make any corrections to it, you get the opportunity to do so. That's really important. I think that's a really important right that people don't forget, is because what we know about trauma is when someone's in trauma, their normal record keeping function of their brain like shuts down, and you go into fight, flight, freeze. I mean, I think there's 7 Fs, and which one of them is not my favorite F word when I'm pissed off. But you go through into that. And so when the cops are there right after the aftermath and they're going, tell me in a linear fashion what happened. I mean, most survivors can't do that. And there's always gaps in the story because they were in the fight or flight mode and their brain wasn't recording normal function. And so since we know that the biology of the brain works that way, the law protects you to give you an opportunity to, like, hey, later when you're in a safe space, you start recalling more details. you can fill them in. So I think that's an important thing people need to know. Survivors also have the right to have an advocate there. They have a right to have an advocate when they're talking to the police. So whether that's calling the Center for Community Solutions, which is our local rape crisis center, and requesting that somebody go with them or be there when the police show up, you have the right for that. If you go get a SART exam, you have a right to also have an advocate there to hold your hand and to tell you. And usually they'll bring you a pamphlet of Marsy's Law and the Victim's Bill of Rights. You have a right to be private, meaning you have the right to not have your identity out there so that everybody doesn't get to go know your name. So I would never, even in the criminal case, never give that up. If the prosecutor ever asks you, hey, would you want us to use your name? Heck no, I don't want to use my name. I'm Jane Doe number 1 or whatever initials they want to pick for me. And sometimes they'll just use your first name, but if you have a weird first name that's, not a normal Jessica or a Jane or whatever it is, pick a different name. You can do that. So advocate for yourself. So now I know we detoured a little bit really quick, but so now going back to that. So you call the detectives, they come and interview you. I would always request a sex crimes. Usually a regular patrol officer is the first one to respond. Call people from your house. Do not go to the station. It's taking forever for police departments to respond. You're probably going to be sitting at home for hours before sometimes somebody shows up. So there's no reason to go sit in a police station for hours. A lot of times people also think I should go to the hospital because that's what they show you in the movies. Don't do that. Stay home. Okay, first of all, don't take a shower. Don't, try to hold it, not pee, because if you were drugged or anything, they're going to need your urine and your blood. And if you eat a bunch, you're hoping your body metabolize the drugs. So as much as you can kind of just stay in that state. I know everybody wants to take a shower and throw the clothes away or, sheets or whatever it is. No, I got to preserve all the evidence. So keep it there, call the cops, call your local rape crisis center. And then when they show up, they'll take all the information, and then usually a sex crimes detective will follow up. They then communicate with the district attorney's office. And it's the district attorney's office and job. The cops can't decide whether it's a good case or not. They can't say sorry, we're dropping this case. Only the district attorney is allowed to make that decision. So I think that's really important because I had a client call, I think it was last year, and she said, and I'm sad, I won't say where it happened, but the detective told her she was an undocumented worker, and they said, you're going to have to pay. You should drop this case because you're going to have to pay. If you want to get him convicted, you're going to have to pay to go to court. You're going to have to pay for these things. And he was putting pressure on her to drop it. First of all, that's not true. None of that is true. A survivor never has to pay for any part of the criminal process. And the cop can't make that decision it's going to get dropped. How do they know? They don't make that decision. It was completely wrong what they did. And I contacted somebody and that person got some education. And that woman then got a different detective who did their job. So you never have to pay, and only a prosecutor can decide. And then you talk to them. And unfortunately, they represent the people. It's the people versus the perpetrators. So that's another thing to think about. So you're their star witness, but you're actually not their client, which is why I usually say talking to a civil lawyer or to the attorneys at a rape crisis center are helpful because then they actually represent you and protect your rights. And sometimes the prosecutors will say, hey, don't go talk to other lawyers because they're going to mess up our case. I have no interest in messing up somebody's case. I want perpetrators to go to jail. Or prison for that matter. But the rate of prosecution is terrible in the country. You're talking about perpetrators actually going to prison, then getting convicted and going and sitting in prison. The rate of that across the country, depending on where you're at, is 2 to 5%. 2 to 5%. That's insane, right? So most survivors are going well, why do I even make the call?
Right.
If I've got a 5% chance that they actually have to pay for their crime. I think it's important we speak up. You have to remember that prosecutors have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt. All 12 jurors have to say guilty in order for that person, which is a hard burden. But their DNA may get stored in codex or in their system, right? So that if somebody else comes forward, now they go, huh, because we know perpetrators reoffend. They offend and offend and offend until they get caught. So I have tons of cases actually where someone, let's say, was hurt in a massage place, and it's behind closed doors, you know, their word against the victim's word. And so most of the time the prosecutor goes, oh, I'm not going to take this case. And yes, their DNA is on your body, but it was supposed to be on your body. But you're like, yeah, not in my vagina though. So, but when there's multiple survivors who don't know each other, now the prosecutor goes, okay, I'm going to take that case. That's when I'm going to try it. And they actually just did. And this guy actually just pled last week. So, I mean,
Oh, wow.
the strength of a voice and multiple voices coming together. So, I mean, and from a domestic violence perspective, we know that predators usually go from one domestically violent relationship to another domestically violent relationship. And so if you speak up and then later they hurt someone else, you mean together you guys are witnesses for, their character and the type of treatment that this person puts you through. So I think criminal is one great way. And then, like I said, you've got civil, which is to sue the perpetrator in civil court for, pain and suffering. And then, family court is to get yourself out of that situation, or for child to get custody or things like that. But all the things can go on at the same time. You can pick one or you can pick none. I mean, truthfully, it's up to a survivor to decide what justice looks like for them. But the good thing is that, you got options.
I have this question though. If you're in a romantic or you're in a domestic partnership, whatever the term is. So you're married, you're living together, this person and your partner, there's domestic violence where there's physical, there's emotional violence, we're learning, and we're really trying to educate women in particular that, you don't have to have marks on your body to be a victim. Is it the same with sexual assault? So if someone threatens, if you don't have sex with me right now, you have to go sleep in your car. Or, the threat of violence, is that just something that we should just be telling people, okay, so if there's a threat of violence, do you document it somewhere? Do you start understanding that is that coercive control if you do this and then you get that?
Right. I mean, a lot of people are talking about coercive control now and really how that is a form of domestic violence. And, through the criminal, to get a restraining order, it's violence or the threat of violence. And so, what counts as violence? I mean, and the penal code has kind of spelled that out. But I think that it's important to kind of document everything, truthfully, because you got to show a pattern. Back to the boiling the frog.
Right.
You didn't just, usually it's not all of a sudden they just go straight from, hi, we're in a relationship, and then punches you in the face.
Oh my God, I just said that on the show last week. I was like, could you imagine if you sat at dinner and after dinner, they just punched you in the face and then you stayed forever? That doesn't happen. That's why it's so confusing to people. They're like, wait, this guy was fucking awesome for a long time. It's the mask was there. Right. I was charmed. I was conned. You hear these stories all the time where you're like, guys, I'm not just with some fucking crazy, wife beater. People are like, he was charming and everybody else was convinced, and I was convinced that they were good. And then because it's insidious, that slow burn, that slow boil, by the time it happens, you're in love with your freaking abuser. And that's okay. I really just want to, it's okay to say, you know what? I had a hard time coming out and saying, I loved him. I don't know any other way to say this. But when you love someone, you pretty much
still love him. I still love him.
I still love him.
But I know it's not right. So how do I reconcile those two?
Right. I don't still I think I do not still love mine. During that time, I was like, I'm so confused because I love this person. And so it must be me. And we keep saying it's not a you thing, it's a them thing, because that just adds another layer to the mix of okay, if all of their behavior is like, but this doesn't make any sense. You're just constantly confused. And so, as you were saying, your brain is not recording information properly if you're in trauma. So, where you can document, the documentation is hard too, because it's like our people are probably afraid to like. I was afraid to journal anything because I'm like, I know he's reading all my shit. So,
Right. Well, that's a whole nother thing, right? They're reading your text messages or with like iCloud. They're logged into your account somewhere else, or there's an app on your phone that's where do you store it privately?
mhm,
Where do you screenshot and download it onto a thumb drive or even wherever it is that you're, storing that so you at least have a documentation of it or you're taking pictures of your injuries. Um, because most of the time too, the abuse isn't happening in front of other people.
right.
It's behind closed doors. And what we know about sociopaths and usually that personality that is abusive is it's super charming.
Yeah.
They're crowd pleasers and they think they're so smart and they're smarter than everybody else. And it's always, they're the victim too, right? And then there's the gaslighting. Whenever you try to say, uh, this isn't right. And they're like, oh, it's always about, you're like, whoa,
Right.
what are they? We've seen, I hear the stories over and over and again. The clients were like, I was trying to stand up for myself and then they just lit me up.
They
Um,
twist your words, they
so
make you feel crazy. I say you're gaslit so much you start gaslighting yourself. And you're like constantly in this stage of, you know, what's happening too when that's happening to you is so the bar that you set for yourself when you started this relationship was at one level. And then you start lowering that bar. And it's like not even conscious, like, but those boundaries. But this is that bar you're lowering every single time they do something wrong and you put up with it. So they're pushing your boundaries while you're lowering your bar. And then the bar's going to get so fucking low, you're just going to trip over it. And then they'll be like, oh, well, that's how she got the black eye. She just tripped over the low bar I set for her. Not because I hit her. It's like, I just think that like we really need to share these stories. And so when you're sitting here and you are a victim, and victim is such a harsh word too. I think it's hard for people to like accept that um patch
to be
of
a victim,
honor
I
or
don't, yeah, victims clients, I let clients pick a name that fits for them, right? Everybody's at a different place in their journey and you have to meet people where they're at. And so
Mhm.
there are a lot of people who really like the word survivor versus victim or the word thriver or
Yeah.
a whole completely different, title. And so I think just like people want pronouns that match how they feel, uh, I think we need to allow a survivor to pick. I think it's all about choices. It's
Yeah.
about empowering people to make their own choices because even the smallest choice really is monumental when you're reconstructing your self identity and your worth. Because, you just gave that analogy and we both giggled about. It's such a powerful analogy about lowering the bar and tripping it over. But also think about somebody who's in that space who probably thinks, well, then it's my fault.
Right.
I lowered my bar, so it's my fault I tripped. Maybe they're right. And that's a hard place to be in, right? Before you
Mm.
can kind of shift that perspective and the blame and see where that's at. So I just want to be conscious of kind of where with the titles too. It's a tough, this is all tough stuff. So
Yeah. It's so
it's
tough. And yeah, I like that you can say, and you can walk away from your situation and like never discuss it again. You don't have to come out and be like, I'm a survivor, I'm a thriver, I'm a sir thriver, like whatever it is that you want to be. You can just be Jane Doe reinventing her life and moving the fuck on. Like that's okay too. So we're gonna
Yep.
take a little break, and when we come
Thelma
back,
and Louising it off the
yes,
cliff.
off the cliff. Let's fucking
Let's
go.
go.
I love it. When we come back, I want to talk about being a trauma informed attorney because we are building this bestie toolkit for our listeners. So we're going to ask you which favorite tool you want to put into this toolkit for our besties and what it means to be a trauma informed attorney. We'll be right back.
I met him at my daughter's college graduation. I pictured being in a fight with him. He was my daughter's boyfriend. 20 days later, he took her life when she tried to break up with him. When Dating Hurts is the name of my podcast. I knew I could not bring Kristen back, but believed I could help others who became tangled up in dating abuse and domestic violence. My guests are domestic violence survivors. Who knows more about the toxicity, the entrapment, devious manipulation, the loneliness, the pain and suffering than brave survivors who live to tell about it? Their stories are raw, intimate, plain-spoken, deeply personal. For many, this is the first time they've told their stories in one place. Today's survivors want current victims to know there are ways to achieve freedom. There is a process that's safe, that this can happen to anyone, and that you are not alone. Join me and my courageous guests on the When Dating Hurts podcast. It's a series of lives being saved.
Welcome back, besties, to this episode of Bitch is a Bad Word with Jessica Pride. So, Jessica, you describe yourself as a trauma-informed attorney. What does that mean, and how does it change the way you support survivors?
I think it goes back to a really basic principle of do no harm. My job is to support a survivor, and if lawyers are going to participate in this type of work, then I think they really need to educate themselves about the experience, about what triggers a client, about how to do it in a way like through a trauma lens, right? Even things where, where do you want to have a client meeting? Maybe I do employment law too, right? So sexual assault happens in all spaces. It happens in homes, it happens in offices. But if the perpetrator hurt my client in an office setting behind closed doors, then that's not very conscious of me if I decide to say, hey, come into my office and let's close the door and talk.
Right.
Because I might send that person into a trauma response. And if my client's triggered, they're not listening to me. They're not telling me, being able to trust me or tell me about their story or give me facts that help me help them. So it's understanding trauma and allowing your client to make choices and doing your best to protect them. So, we do everything from sending our clients, we actually send them self-care kits to just help them on their healing journey, because it's really important for me that our clients heal. Like, this is one way for them to heal, but I also want them to heal in what's like, hey, give me your legal burden. Like, I will carry that piece for you. Let me do that. Let me do my job. Let's say you hired me. You take care of you, and we're here to support you in any way that you need, to give you referrals for therapy or whatever it is. But we need to do it. It's not like normal lawyering. And so I realized after the Me Too movement, all these lawyers came in and were like, I want to be a Me Too lawyer. And I'm like, great. Because one, I'm like, great, yes, that's amazing, because there's so many survivors out there that need help. And now that survivors realize that there are avenues for civil justice, there is a much higher demand. But I think lawyers do a disservice to their clients if they treat it like it's a car crash.
Right.
Come in with the list, tell me the date you got happened, then what happened, Okay, you got pictures, you have this, okay, great. Like, how do you tell a client's story if you're so generic like that? I think that,
and you're asking for a story that could span decades of ICE incidents that don't just happen one after another, like in a very predictable pattern. It's erratic.
Right. Or say something stupid like, well, how many drinks did you have? Like, how condescending and judgmental does that sound like that? Like,
Right.
why would you say that to a client? Now they think like, oh, even my lawyer thinks I did something wrong. This is my fault. Believe me, the client already beat themselves up 100 times over before they sat in the seat to talk to you about their case. So it's not our job to judge them. No, it's our job to help them. That's what you do as a lawyer who fights for your client's rights. So I think it's important that attorneys realize if they're going to do this work, they need to do it in a trauma-informed way, which is why I teach all across the country. I teach about how to do sexual assault cases, because I want people to get justice, and I'd love for them to do it in a way that feels safe for a client. because I think that's when you get your best testimony or the best evidence or the best communication, and you do it together as a supportive agreement. Like, I love at the end of cases when I say to my client, hey, what do you think of this? And this is how we might resolve it. And they say, you know what, Joss, whatever you think, I trust you. I mean, that's the biggest compliment to me. Then I'm like, I did my job. I did
Right.
my job well, because they know that I care about them and I'm going to do what's in their best interest. So,
I love that. So if our besties are looking for a trauma-informed attorney or an attorney, are there specific questions they should be asking to know that they're in the right spot?
yeah, I would go on their website and kind of look at it. There's resources on ours. So if you like go on Survivor Lawyer, we have a toolkit in there for healing and, different things. And it's hard with lawyers, right? A lot of our websites look like, it's like, how do you get out of that lawyer mold? But I think when you talk to the lawyer, do they have an advocate on staff? Do they actually have someone like we have? She did social work before and worked with survivors. So do they have people on staff to help the lawyer, through the process? Because look, we're busy. Lawyers are busy. You're in court. You're doing this. You don't always have the time to do some of the day-to-day communication. And so having an advocate on staff, I really think says to me, from a law firm's perspective, this firm actually cares. This firm cares about survivors. They're investing in things that are going to be trauma informed, because you don't have to pay for that. That's an additional cost. Or if they're doing, when you go to visit, they have, weighted blankets or, have different fidgets or things to help ease you. Or when you go testify, they give you things and prep you outside the normal, like, you can say this or don't say that. Those say to me, this law firm is trauma informed. You can ask questions. See how your lawyer, when they talk to you, how are you feeling? Are you okay? What can we do? Can we provide you some resources? If they're not asking you those questions and they're just talking at you, they're not listening to you, probably not the best lawyer for you. And the good thing to know is that consultations with personal injury lawyers are free. So you can interview a couple lawyers and you don't feel like you're losing money. You are losing time. And I would caution against talking to too many people, because I think every time you retell your story, it's traumatizing.
Right.
But sometimes reach out to someone that is trauma informed or a good lawyer, because if they can't help you, a lot of times they'll say, hey, I can't take this case, but I would recommend these 3 people or these things. Like, I don't refer to people that I think suck. I refer to people that I actually think are good lawyers, because I think that says something about my reputation too. If I'm sending someone off to someone who doesn't know what they're doing, that's not helpful to anyone. So reach out. Your local rape crisis center, sometimes they have partnerships with law firms that they trust, so you can ask them. There's multiple ways to kind of look out there. And also, you can run Google searches. I think now not kids, I feel this because I'm old. Everybody's on social media, which is so interesting to me that people find lawyers on social media. I have a whole Instagram thing that sometimes makes me really uncomfortable to put all these things out there, but you'd be surprised how many people are interacting that way. It's very different from when I started practicing law.
Well, your social media would inspire any survivor to come to you, because it is inspiring. Your page feels like a very safe place. And, you've really done an amazing job of taking such a dark topic and just like surrounding it with this light and love, and it just radiates off you as a person, but also off of just your page. So, what is your page? I want to direct our besties to your page, even if you're not in Southern California. You are so.
Yeah, please look. Let me look at my. So terrible. I'm like, what is my Jessica Pride? So JESSICA, P like Paul, RID like dog, ESQ. So JessicaPride.ESQ. Looks like that.
Oh,
there you go. I love the stories, truthfully. Like, I watch my old stories every day. Like, it gives me motivation. I think they're really pretty. I wanted it to feel inspirational and something just, every day is a struggle for a survivor. And some days are better than other days. Some days you feel like you're on the floor, and other days you're like, oh, I'm having a good day. This is a good one. Some days you're just, you feel numb. But the stories have some cool stuff in there that just kind of, I think we put a number of them up every day just because I feel like at least one of them resonates with people. It's a nice, like, I know sometimes I get tired and I forget to and I'm like, oh my God, no, I gotta put the story. So I hope
No,
people
it's
enjoy
super
them as much as I do. I
inspiring.
really do it for me. And then I guess if other people like it too, that's awesome.
Well, I love it. I watch it all the time.
Hi, I'm Sarah Wayne Callies, and I played Dr. Sarah Tancredi on Prison Break.
And I'm Paul Edelstein, and I played Agent Paul Kellerman on Prison Break. Please join us on our rewatch podcast, Prison Breaking, with Sarah and Paul.
We're going to have all kinds of guests and never before told stories. So follow us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. And you can subscribe to our watch party on the link there. We can't wait to see you there.
And follow us on Instagram at Prison Break Podcast. See you there.
So I want to ask you, what is the one toolkit that you can give our besties to put in their toolkit as they are navigating this road through and out of any abusive relationship?
Well, I think I would say look at Civil Code Section 1708.6. That's a Civil Code domestic violence cause of action. Most people don't talk about that. So that's an interesting thing to think about. And I hope you find power in that if that's your situation. I would also, Marcy's Law, look at that. I'm giving you legal ones because I guess that's
No, that's
kind
fine.
of the
How do you
world we
spell
live in.
Marcy?
Marcy.
Okay.
So I would look at that, and now let's see. Well, I think, and every state has a different one. So just now that you're not alone, but how does that toolkit? Rape crisis centers. I used to be president of the board of our rape crisis center here in San Diego, the Center for Community Solutions. I keep touting them because I was really just in awe of the amazing work that they do. They really do care. You get 10 free sessions from trauma-informed therapists there. There is a legal team there that can help you through TROs and stuff like that, or DVROs. And there are advocates. There's different kinds of healing modalities. I really love the work that they do, and the best part of it is free. So
That's amazing.
that's a great place to always look for. Those probably would be, if I think of something else that I think would be super helpful, and healing, right? Just focus on your healing. You can't pour from an empty cup. And most people I talk to, they have children or busy lives, or they have responsibilities. And when you ran your gas tank to empty, there's nothing left to give.
Yeah.
So it's not selfish to take care of you. It's like when you're in the plane, right? And they give you the instruction, if you're with a child, put your air mask on first before you put on your child's.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing. If you don't take care of you, there's nothing left of you to take care of your responsibilities. So take care of you.
Take care
and
of
I think
you.
that's why that's why I started the healing center, because it was I felt like I could only do so much in the civil world to help survivors. And it's how else can I help survivors? And so I took the money that we made here from winning sexual assault cases on behalf of survivors, and then took that money to now help survivors heal, which is how Serona Healing Center was born.
That is an absolute beautiful story. And so how can we find you?
Serona, so it's on Serona Healing, and Serona spelled Sirona. It's so SeronaHealing.com. We named it Serona after the Celtic goddess of healing, and her symbolism is healing waters. And at least for me, God, when I had some bad days, I am the type of person that I sit on the bottom of the shower and just let the water run over me. And it's this beautiful kind of like washing away the pain and the tears, but then also standing up and just kind of being reborn and kind of being able to just let it heal you. So I'm really proud of what we've created with Serena Healing. It's first of its kind. It's actually a healing center just for sexual assault survivors, in which we're offering a holistic, multidisciplinary healing experience. So we're taking like evidence-based therapies like EMDR and DBT, but then we're mixing them with alternative healing modalities like sound healing or Reiki or even life coaching. Because how many times have you been like, okay, I'm healing, but where do I go from here? My life's in
Right.
pieces. How do I put it back together? So Serena's all about safe, private, and like personalized experiences. There's no like one size. We're not like, okay, here's the Serena healing method. You must do all these classes in order to get to your destination or to get to a place where you feel better. We have our clinical director gets together with our wellness director, and our whole team gets together and says, where is this person at? How do we meet them where they're at? And what's the best thing for them at this point in their journey? Are they in acute trauma? Are they later on in, a more stabilized place? But like, what can we do to put together a personal healing plan where the survivor actually gets to have a say? We'll say, hey,
Right.
we have these options. Like imagine kind of like and it's all virtual. So it's kind of like an online Miraval, a little bit-esque, right? So, you go to Miraval and you're like, ooh, this treatment resonates with me and this one resonates with me. And so I'll take all of these. And so that's what we've curated. It's this beautiful, everybody, all of the treatment modalities are all for survivors, have been created through a trauma lens. And then all of the providers are talking. Like imagine that, because usually you go to like therapy over here, and then most of the time you're like, I don't like this therapist, or I finally found a therapist that I like, and they said I need to do EMDR. Okay, but my regular like talk therapist doesn't do that. And then they said I should do some kind of journaling or like I want to do a class about learning about boundaries and relationships. Where do I get that? And so my clients were going in like 12 directions, and that's exhausting. Like when you just want to heal, the last thing you want to do is go find 1,200 providers. So
Right.
we're a one-stop shop, and where your providers then talk and go, is this working? Is that no work? Like no ego. Let's find the best thing, because the only goal is to help a survivor find peace, to help a survivor heal. So I'm really proud of what we've created. It's amazing. My partner, I'm just one of the founders, Bernard Griffin Tabor, who used to run our crisis center here for the last 25 years. She started this journey with me, and her and the clinical director are, they're the CEO and director and figuring out how to do the day-to-day, because I realized I'm good at lawyering. I am not a healer or a doctor. So I let them do the beautiful work that they know how to do, but I'm so happy to support it. I'm so happy that out of, like you said earlier, this trauma of what my clients had to go through came triumph, came something beautiful that gives survivors another option, right? That's what I love. There's options. There's lots of options out there, right?
Right.
Before it felt like there were no options. So we got options. We got options to figure it out.
I love it. It sounds like a beautiful place, and congratulations on the opening that's coming up. And you should be so
Yeah.
proud of this work that you're putting out in the world for these survivors that need you. So thank you for the work that you're doing in this community. I'm so inspired by everything I watch that you do and how you help. And again, just like your light is so appreciated in this very dark space. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
I loved having you on the show today, and I can't wait to have you
I
back.
love being here.
Thank you so much
Anytime.
for coming on.
Anytime.
Yeah, I look forward to all of, I'm sure you're going to have posts on this new healing center, and we look forward to all of our besties being able to find you. Jessica Pride at
Hi.
Pride Law Firm if you're in San Diego, California.
Thank you.
Jessica, thank you. You are part of our BFF club now, which is our Bitches Fighting for Freedom. And welcome to the club.
Thank you. This is my favorite club. I run this club.
We were going to host regular meetings at our new cafe for survivors. Thanks again for coming, and we will see you next time on Bitch is a Bad Word. Bitches being bad.